All right, can everybody hear me okay? Should I lift this? All right, well, I'm Mitchell Breedlove. I'm with the County Lake Water Resources Department. I oversee groundwater management, lake bed management, and water rights, things like that for the county. We're going to talk a little bit about the county's efforts and monitoring programs that we do. So I'll do a little overview. We're going to talk about what a groundwater basin is for those of you who don't know here in the room. I'll hold it. All right. We're going to talk about the Sustainable Groundwater Management Act background and then the county efforts and support that we do. So we'll start off here with key definitions of what a groundwater basin is. And you can see it here. It's an alluvial aquifer or stacked series of alluvial aquifers with reasonably well-defined boundaries in a lateral direction and having a definable bottom. So then we can break a groundwater basin down into a groundwater subbasin, which is created by dividing a groundwater basin into smaller units using geological and hydrologic barriers or institutional boundaries. So let me get some notes out here. I apologize. I'm nervous. I haven't spoken to anybody, this many people in a long time. So. All right. Well, so what we'll do is we'll define a confined, semi-confined, and an unconfined aquifer. And what a confined aquifer is, and you can see that here, is an aquifer below the land surface with layers of impermeable material above and below the aquifer. And an unconfined aquifer, which you can see in this location here, is an aquifer where groundwater is in direct contact with the atmosphere through the open pore spaces of the overlying soil or rock. And a semi-unconfined, which you'll see here, is partially overlain by rock formation, which has low permeability through which water can pass only slowly to recharge the aquifer. And in terms of what a water table is, that would be the upper groundwater surface of an unconfined aquifer. So the county has 7 main groundwater basins within the county jurisdiction. And I'll touch on Big Valley here down a little bit, but we'll start here. We have Scotts Valley aquifer over in Scotts Valley on the western side of the county. We have Upper Lake Valley, Long Valley, High Valley, Burns Valley, and over here on the right down in the Middletown area, we have Coyote Valley and Coyama Valley. I always struggle with that name. So let me go back here. The reason Big Valley, and you'll notice the difference, red or non, these are monitoring wells that we no longer monitor in red, and the green are ones that we monitor. And I'll be getting into some more details on this. But the Big Valley Basin here, you can see there's a lot more that we monitor in this area, and I'll get more into that here soon. So what are our measuring methodologies? So we have electronic sounders. So this is a easier, faster, simpler way to monitor groundwater. You stick this down a well casing, and then when this tip of the probe touches water, it conducts and it makes a noise, so we know. But these are not as solid because you may hit the side of a casing and it may hit water early and it will beep. So you have to be careful on what you do. And then you have a still tape here, which is a lot easier, but it takes longer because you have to go down past the wetted, like last measurement that you've had in the area to make sure that you've gone deep enough. So we'll get into, so this is the CASGIM, which is the California State Groundwater Elevation Monitoring Program. And so our readings that we get from the electronic sounders or still tapes go into this website, which the California State has created. They created that in 2009, and that's to track seasonal and long-term groundwater basin levels. The program's mission is to establish permanent locally managed. The state really wants to maintain local control in the area. They don't want to have to come in and monitor things. They want the local to be in charge of that. All of our readings, which we do on a biannual basis, I can go back to these slides. So in Big Valley, we monitor 10 wells monthly. So we do this one monthly. And then these other ones, we only do biannually. We do a spring reading and a fall reading. So some Sustainable Groundwater Management Act, otherwise known as SGMA. We like to use a lot of acronyms in the groundwater world. So if there's any later on you can come and ask me that I may have missed. But in 2014, the Sustainable Groundwater Management Act was formed, and let me get my notes here. This was formed by Governor Jerry Brown, signed into law, three-bill legislative package comprised of Assembly Bill 1739, Senate Bill 1168, and Senate Bill 1319, otherwise identified as SIGMA. And SIGMA requires medium, high, and critically overdrafted basins to develop a groundwater sustainability plan in an effort to ensure the groundwater basin reaches sustainability within 20 years. So that's this. Of our 7 groundwater basins, our major ones, only the Big Valley Basin 5-015 was determined to be a medium priority basin. So that's the one that had all of the monitoring wells. That's part of the reason that we have so many there. So we'll get into the definitions of what Big Valley Basin is here. I think I missed it. So for those of you that don't know, the Big Valley Basin lies south of Clear Lake and includes Kelsey Creek and Adobe Creek, which both drain into Clear Lake. This is a source of water for the community of Kelseyville, as well as much of the agriculture in the county. This is the largest agricultural area in the county, and the basin is considered to be 6 miles wide and 8 miles long. So we can talk about some implementation here. The Big Valley, over here on the left, we don't have the dates, but in 2014, this is when SIGMA went into effect. In 2016, 2017 was where some of the first GSAs were formed. In 2019 is when the Board of Supervisors, sitting as the Board of Directors of the Lake County Water Resources Department, established the Big Valley Groundwater Sustainability Agency, which is led by myself within the Water Resources Department. From there, we applied through the district for some Prop 68 funds in 2019, 2020 for about $1.4 million to develop a groundwater sustainability plan, as our basin was determined to be a medium priority. And we were awarded that money in 2020. Through 2020 to 2022 was the development of that plan. The Board of Directors appointed a groundwater sustainability advisory committee, and that is comprised of local water purveyors, tribal nations within the area, myself at the county, and we have some environmental agencies that are included. So in 2022 and 2023, we submitted this GSP, and it was adopted and accepted from the state with some recommendations of things that we can do to ensure that we're reaching sustainability. So what are our next steps? So we're into the implementation phase now. So our GSP was developed, and now we have to implement the projects and management actions of which we determined within that plan. So we're in the implementation phase, as I mentioned here earlier. Some of the next things are we're extending our facilitation support services, which I'll get into a little bit on the next slide, I believe, which is a program through the Department of Water Resources. It's free, it's no cost to us at the county, and basically we have facilitators that come in and help us do public outreach. We have advisory committee meetings. That's on a quarterly annual basis. So every 3 months we meet with those entities that I talked about earlier. And these are the people that helped draft the GSP, and now they've moved into the GSP implementation. Another thing that we're looking for is seeking long-term funding mechanism. And then in 2027 is our 5-year update that's required. So these are some of the scopes that are facilitation support. Stantec is the company that has been consulted by Department of Water Resources. And we currently have these 3 items here that are included in our current services till the end of August. And we just heard that it's been essentially approved, and we're finalizing our draft to continue these services from the end of August, September through December. And some of that is continuing to help us with the groundwater sustainability advisory committee meetings, Board of Supervisors updates. So if anybody misses this, I plan to be in front of the board within a month or so to have a much deeper depth of what's going on in the aquifer and so on and so forth. We have quite a few vacant seats that were determined in our advisory committee. A lot of that is underrepresented users. We're also looking for domestic well owners in the area to be a part of this committee. So if anybody's here that is a domestic well owner and wants to be involved in this, please reach out to me after this, and we'd love to get you on the advisory committee. We plan to do a tribal workshop, underrepresented groundwater user workshop, so that we can reach out to the people that may not be able to make it when we have our meetings. We tend to have them in the middle of the day on a Friday, and we're looking to change that to in the afternoon, later at night, for people that work during the day and don't have the privilege to being able to leave their work and join us for the meetings. So within the GSP, they determined, and this wasn't done by any other GSP throughout California, this was unique to ours. They preemptively determined a tier list of project and management actions for our GSP. Currently, the Big Valley Groundwater Basin is considered to be managed sustainably, so there are no tier 1 management. However, remember these next 3, as I'm going to be getting into some more details of what those project managements were for tier 1B, which was to otherwise comply with SGMA to fill data gaps and support the GSA. Tier 2 is to improve management, contribute to achieving measurable objectives, and tier 3 is to support wider water management. So I know there's a lot going on this screen. I'll try to go through them as briefly as possible. One of the first ones so this is tier 1B. So this is things that don't need to happen, but things that we want to help achieve sustainability. Is we have the expand the well monitoring network and data collection. This is a big one. It's talking about installing some representative monitoring wells. We have gotten some support from the state Department of Water Resources. They have fast-tracked 2 wells that they're planning to input, and I'll talk about those 2 at a later slide. But we've gotten one of those wells implemented in, and that also kind of touches on the next one, which is improve understanding of relationship between surface water and groundwater, which also Valerie will be talking about next. As we all know, a big topic of conversation with the Clear Lake Hitch and all things we want to know, okay, is pumping in a near to a stream going to reduce the surface water within that stream? So we have some wells that are being put in to help determine that. Conducting an RMS of the well's baseline water quality. Currently, the county monitors 6 wells within our Big Valley Basin on a quarterly basis, and so we're doing that. Some of these are cost estimates that were developed when they were developing the GSP. They're not factual, like for sure this is the cost. It could be more, it could be less. Another thing here is the state did a airborne electromagnetic study all the way across the state of California, and basically they had this helicopter that flew by, it shot down electromagnetic, and then the bounce and the feedback from that, they were able to determine what the geology below the surface is to a specific depth. So the Department of Water Resources had that study, and we plan to integrate that study into our hydrologic modeling that we use for our GSP. On the right, we have a domestic well management program. This is to help with well reporting, any dry wells, things like that. We do have a website. This was created prior to that website being implemented. That is within our County Lake Resources website. And then public outreach. We're getting help with facilitation support. We'll move on to the tier 2 projects, and many of you may have heard about a number of these things. But the big one here is implement the Adobe Creek Conjunctive Use Project. When that project was written back in 2001, 2002, the big focus was on groundwater recharge. That's not necessarily the biggest focus of that project anymore. A lot of it's going to be swapped to potentially providing supplemental flows during low water seasons to provide flow for the Clear Lake Hitch. However, we're dealing with a lot of water rights issues on that. As you know, we are within the Delta water system, and so people downstream in the Central Valley also will protest what we do or what we choose to try and get here. The next big one is rehabilitate the Kelsey Creek detention structure. We do have funds to utilize this. However, we have not found a contractor yet and solicited that bid. Basically, this structure, the engine pulled up and out of the foundation of that, so we're no longer able to close our impounding gates and provide groundwater recharge. Another big one that I would love to see, and these are all ones that are just if we get to them, is improved water demand estimates. As you know, cannabis is a big thing in our area, specifically Big Valley, with it being a big agricultural area. Being able to determine what a sustainable yield is for those operations would be fantastic. Investigate recharge locations. That's a big one. We have some funds through DWR they have some assistance to help us with that. And then investigating stormwater capture reuse. This is a big one that our department is doing a stormwater capture plan, and this will be part of that. And some of the last ones is reestablish wetland and riparian habitats. One of the big ones there is the Middle Creek Restoration Project. If you're not familiar with that, I believe there's going to be a talk later on today on that. So you can see that this comprehensive list kind of included a lot of the different science that has been talked about here this week, which is great because we don't have to rely upon the people within Big Valley to be able to put these projects and management actions into place. We've been grateful for all the grant funding that we've gotten. So I'll talk a little bit about the monitoring wells. On the left are the proposed sites that we had submitted to the Department of Water Resources. This is also within our groundwater sustainability plan. And you can see here the preferred locations, 50 feet, 200 feet, and 2 transducers. So there's 2 completions on those wells. And on the right, you'll see here we have the Kelsey Creek location that is directly east of our Kelsey Creek detention structure, which is a fantastic location. Our Water Resources Department owns that piece of property. We were able to install that well. That well, they drilled to 320 feet of depth to take samples. However, they screened at 160 to 180 feet for one completion, and the other completion is 60 feet to 80 feet of completion. I know that this week, as we're speaking now, they are inputting some telemetry on that well, and there's going to be a website that data will be uploaded to, and I believe it is hourly readings. They may be able to do it more than that, but I believe currently they're going to do hourly readings. And then next week, we are starting, through the help of Department of Water Resources, we will be starting drilling a well here at Argonaut and Highway 29. That's basically behind the I cannot think of it. Rainbow Ag. Basically behind Rainbow Ag, right at Highway 29. It is a Caltrans right-of-way parcel, so it took us a little bit of time getting some permitting there through Caltrans to allow this to be in there. But this one, I believe they plan to drill beyond the 300 feet, which Seth, I think will be pretty cool because they are anticipating that they hit a volcanic ash layer. So I will keep in contact with you if they plan to still go that deep, then I will let you know if they do hit it. So, anyways, that's basically it for things that we're doing. There's a lot more in depth. Feel free to ask me questions. If you want to stay involved, the best way is to join us at our Groundwater Sustainability Advisory Committee meetings. These are open to the public. They are streamed to the public via Zoom. Our advisory committee is in person. We meet up in Conference Room C, the 3rd floor of the Lake County Courthouse in Lakeport. And these are our next dates that we plan to have these meetings. So it's the 2nd Friday of each month from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. If you want to be involved, this is a great way to be involved. And as I mentioned, I plan to bring something to the Board of Supervisors in the near future. So thank you guys.
I think we have time for a couple of questions.
On your advisory committee, are you only interested in the domestic well user that's on a alluvial plain aquifer, or will a fractured rock aquifer do?
Either one will do, as long as you're within our Big Valley Basin.
Okay, I'm in your basin, a Big Valley Basin?
Yes. Yeah. So that would be this basin. This basin here.
Oh,
Kelseyville, basically.
too bad.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Seems
So
I had
that's
a
a little down
well and
here.
everything for you. So,
Okay.
but no, it's on the other side of the lake. Why aren't you guys interested in our fractured rock aquifers? Good question, right?
And that's great. Yeah. Thank you.
Any more questions? One more.
So I see the Big Valley, and there's another basin, and maybe it is the Fractured Rock Basin, But there's been a significant amount of vineyard development in what I would call the Red Hills winery appellation. From the groundwater studies I've looked at to do some environmental review a while ago, it seems like the groundwater is moving down the Canocti Bay Fault Zone. The big neighborhoods in this lake all get our water from the lake. And nobody's really talked about because it's been significant development from native chaparral and dry farmed walnuts. I think if you were to take a drone flight from, the top of the Glasgow grade to almost to Kelseyville on the south side of the mountain, it's significant, more significant than sometimes is a visual from just driving down the highway. Because the big neighborhoods get their water from the lake, I think it would be of interest to understand the effects of some of the ag development on the water that may or may not be moving through the Canocti Bay Fault Zone, because if that's a major water supply for a significant amount of the residential development that was there first, then we have to beg the question, in a massive drought, if the lake, and people say could happen, but it's a very shallow lake, in a significant drought, we might be out of water in the actual lake itself, and therefore no water for the residential development. And yet I have never, ever really seen a discussion on that particular area. Is that going to be something that is looked at?
Potentially, I would love to look into that. What we've based a lot of our monitoring stuff on, I'll go back here to this one here. So you're talking kind of this area, right? Red Hills.
Yes,
Basically
yes,
this area.
yes. And
So-
the Canocti Bay Fault Zone goes right into the lake, which I would
Correct.
assume is delivering some groundwater, and maybe even groundwater that's been there since the last ice age, possibly. I don't know. I'm not an expert.
Yeah. I'd love to reach out if anybody has a well in that area and I could monitor. It would be outside of what we do. These are all groundwater basins that were determined through the state Department of Water Resources, through one of their Senate bills. And this is what they determined to be many of the groundwater basins. And so that is what we are required to monitor. That's why we haven't looked elsewhere. And a lot of our priority focus, as I mentioned, is here in the Big Valley because of the medium priority. But I'd love to maybe go out and monitor somebody's well on a monthly basis or even biannually in those areas. So if you know of anybody, please have them reach out to me. Yeah. All right. Well, thank you guys.